Maya no longer looked at her marriage as something to repair. The confrontation had stripped away every illusion, and what remained was a hollow shell. She began to detach piece by piece, not with anger but with a quiet resolve. Every morning she woke with the same thought: she would not allow her son to grow up believing love meant sacrifice without respect. She started confiding in Samira, who reminded her of her strength, who told her that betrayal did not define her worth. Those conversations became her lifeline, small threads pulling her back toward herself. One evening, with her heart steady, Maya sat across from Arman and told him the words she had rehearsed in silence. She could no longer continue in a marriage built on broken trust. Her tone was calm, not loud or desperate, but certain. Arman's face shifted between guilt, disbelief, and fear. He tried to reach for her hand, but she pulled away. He spoke of mistakes, of second chances, of the life they had built together, but she shook her head. What had been lost could not be rebuilt with promises. She explained that her priority was Ayan, that his future demanded stability and truth, not a facade of happiness that would eventually collapse, Arman argued, his voice rising then breaking. But Maya did not waver. She had already mourned the marriage, now she was letting it go. The decision was not made in anger but in clarity. She told him that love meant more than presence, it meant loyalty, safety, and respect, all of which he had abandoned. He sat in silence then, unable to counter the quiet strength in her words. The man who once betrayed her now looked at her with the knowledge that he had lost her for good. Days turned into weeks, and Maya began building a life on her own terms. She searched for work, something small at first, but enough to give her a sense of independence. Each step felt shaky, but it was also liberating. She managed finances carefully, learning to stretch what she had without asking for help. She created routines with Ayan that filled the house with warmth again: homework sessions, simple dinners, bedtime stories. The laughter that once felt threatened now returned in bursts, lighter and freer. Maya realized that though her marriage had ended, her family was not broken. She and her son still formed a whole, unshaken by the absence of betrayal. Pain still lingered, of course. There were nights she cried quietly after Ayan had gone to sleep, nights when the memory of Arman's lies stung her like fresh wounds. Flashbacks of the discovery haunted her, moments when her chest tightened as though reliving it again. But instead of drowning in despair, she used that pain as a reminder of her strength. Each tear shed was followed by a decision to rise again, to keep moving forward for the child who looked at her as his world. Samira often reminded her that resilience is not the absence of suffering but the choice to rebuild despite it. Maya carried that truth with her. She began to see herself not as abandoned but as freed, no longer bound to a man who could not honor her love. Slowly, she found pieces of joy in unexpected places: morning walks with Ayan, the satisfaction of earning her own income, the quiet peace of an evening spent without tension hanging in the air. Arman, though still present in Ion's life, remained on the edges of hers. He visited, sometimes bringing gifts, sometimes speaking with regret heavy in his tone. But Maya no longer allowed his words to affect her. She responded with courtesy for the sake of their son but offered him nothing beyond that. He could not undo what he had done, and she no longer looked to him for healing. His presence became a reminder of her strength, proof that she could face betrayal and still stand tall. There came a day when Maya realized she had stopped waiting for closure from him. She no longer replayed arguments in her head, no longer wished for explanations. She had built her own closure by choosing to step forward. What once felt like an ending had become a beginning. She was not the same woman who had discovered those messages. She was stronger, wiser, unbreakable in ways she had never imagined. Walking with Ion through a park one afternoon, she felt his small hand slip into hers. He looked up at her with a smile that radiated trust and love. In that moment, she understood her resilience was not only for herself but for him. She had turned betrayal into a lesson, showing her son that even in the face of heartbreak, one could choose dignity over despair. Life would never erase what happened, but Maya had found a way to transform it. Betrayal had broken her, yes, but resilience had rebuilt her. The scars remained, but they no longer defined her. She had chosen to rise, and in doing so, she had shown that love rooted in motherhood could outlast any betrayal. As she walked forward, her son by her side, she carried no illusions of perfection, only the quiet certainty that their love, pure, steadfast, unshakable, was the only bond that truly mattered. This is 770 words, completing section 3 with Maya's resilience, separation, and rebuilding. Would you like me to now also create the final YouTube style title and description, SEO optimized, emotional tone, faceless storytelling angle, to wrap it all up for posting? Maya lived for the rhythm of her small family, pouring herself into every detail of their lives. From early mornings preparing Ayan's school bag to late evenings waiting for Arman to come home, she found meaning in the ordinary. She believed in love that endured, love that could not be shaken by time or hardship. To her, Arman was more than a husband. He was a partner she had built her world around, the man she trusted with every piece of her heart. She carried the certainty that their bond was unbreakable, a shield against life's unpredictability, but shadows began creeping into the corners of her certainty. Arman's once steady presence became fragmented, replaced by late nights, vague explanations, and calls he stepped away to take. He began to smell faintly of cologne Maya didn't recognize. When she asked gentle questions, he offered answers that slid too easily from his tongue, as though rehearsed. She wanted to believe him, wanted to preserve the warmth of their home, so she swallowed her doubts. Love, she told herself, deserved trust, and trust meant refusing to dwell on passing suspicions, yet the cracks widened. He grew distracted during meals, his eyes glued to a screen that darkened whenever she neared. He left kisses on her forehead instead of her lips, gestures more of habit than affection. Nights stretched into emptiness as he claimed deadlines and meetings. A silence settled between them, one that pressed against her chest like a weight she could not shake. Maya still tried to smile for Ayan, tried to preserve the sense of safety he deserved, but inside her questions churned without rest. One evening, as she cleared the dining table, Arman's phone vibrated against the counter. It was a simple notification, but the name flashing across the screen was unfamiliar, delicate, and feminine. She froze. When she glanced again, the message had vanished. Her heart pounded with a fear she refused to name. That night she lay awake, eyes tracing patterns across the ceiling, wondering if her devotion had been built on sand. The turning point came not with suspicion but with undeniable proof. While searching for a document on their shared laptop, a saved email caught her attention. She hesitated, every instinct warning her to turn away, but the pull was too strong. One click, and the truth unfolded in a stream of messages, her plans made in secrecy, hotel reservations under Arman's name, words of affection never meant for her. Maya's breath caught as if the air itself had betrayed her. She scrolled with trembling hands, her chest tightening with each line. The name was there, Zoya. Not a shadow but a woman, not a suspicion but a reality. The betrayal struck like a blow she hadn't prepared for. Memories flashed through her mind, Arman's promises, their shared laughter, the way he once reached for her hand without thinking. Every image now carried the stain of deceit. She pressed her palm against her mouth, fighting the sobs that threatened to escape, terrified Ayan might hear. Her entire body trembled as if her foundation had crumbled beneath her feet. And the days that followed, Maya became an actress in her own home. She packed Ayan's lunch, greeted neighbors with polite smiles, and folded Arman's shirts as though nothing had changed. But inside, her heart splintered further with every glance at him. The man who once symbolized safety now stood before her as the source of her deepest wound. At night, she would lie in silence, the sound of his breathing beside her both familiar and unbearable. She thought of confronting him, of demanding answers. But each time her son's laughter echoed through the house, she swallowed her words. Ayan's world was still whole, and she could not bring herself to shatter it with the truth she carried alone. She bore the weight quietly, clutching her pain as though it were a secret illness. Still, the truth changed her. Where once she reached for Arman with trust, she now recoiled with caution. Where once she believed in permanence, she now feared fragility. Her smile lingered for her child, but behind it stretched sleepless nights and eyes that burned with hidden tears. She wondered if resilience was not about never breaking but about hiding the pieces well enough that no one else could see them scatter, and so she endured, broken yet silent, resting beside the man who had betrayed her while staring into the darkness above. The illusion of love had been shattered, but she had not yet decided whether she would confront it or carry it longer. Her heart ached, but her resolve whispered that she could not allow despair to consume her, not when her son still needed her strength. The unspoken truth lingered in the room, suffocating and undeniable, and Maya knew her world would never be the same again. This script runs 770 words. Within your requirement. Do you want me to move straight into section 2, 760 words, with the confrontation and breaking point, keeping the same tight, faceless narrative style? Maya carried the truth inside her like a burning coal, searing her with every thought. She wanted to scream, to demand an explanation, but Ayan's laughter echoing in the house made her swallow her rage. She tried to act normal, yet her silence grew heavy. Arman sensed her distance but mistook it for fatigue. She knew the confrontation could no longer wait, that the wound had festered too long. The day came when the weight became unbearable, and she stood before him, trembling but unshaken, her voice breaking the fragile peace. At first, her words were questions, simple, sharp, impossible to dismiss. Where had he been those late nights? Who was the woman who messaged him at hours meant for family? Arman shifted uncomfortably, his answers stumbling into rehearsed lies. He tried to cover one story with another, but Maya's steady gaze stripped him of excuses. She demanded clarity, and his voice faltered. For a moment, denial clung to him, but the proof she carried in memory left him cornered. Silence stretched before he finally admitted what she already knew. Yes, there was someone else. Yes, it had gone further than a mistake. The words felt like glass shattering in the room, cutting through the air, cutting through her heart. Her chest burned with fury, but also with grief deeper than she imagined possible. She asked him why, her voice both quiet and ferocious, and his answers only deepened the wound. He spoke of feeling unseen, of needing escape, of moments that spiraled beyond his control. To Maya, each explanation sounded like cowardice, a refusal to take responsibility for the vows he had broken. She reminded him of her sacrifices, the nights spent alone raising their son while he claimed to build their future, the trust she gave without hesitation. His betrayal had not just been against her, it was against their family, against the little boy who loved his father without condition. The tension seeped into their home like a storm that refused to pass. Ayan, though young, sensed the shift. He watched his parents with wide eyes, confused by hushed arguments and the heavy silence that followed. One evening, while playing with his toys, he paused to ask Maya why she looked sad all the time. The question struck her harder than Arman's confession. She realized that no matter how much she tried to shield her son, the cracks in their marriage reached him too. That awareness filled her with guilt, but also a fierce determination to protect him from more harm. Arman attempted to justify himself, sometimes with apologies, other times with defensiveness. He insisted that he still loved Maya, that Zoya meant nothing compared to the family they had built. But his words carried little weight against the truth of his actions. Maya could see the conflict in his eyes, the pull between what he had at home and what he had sought elsewhere. She felt both disgust and pity, yet neither offered comfort. It wasn't long before Zoya herself brushed against Maya's world. A misplaced message arrived on Arman's phone, visible for only a moment, but enough for Maya to know the woman still lingered. Later, she overheard a call not meant for her ears. Zoya's voice calm, almost daring. It was not only betrayal but arrogance, that another woman could stand so casually in the space where Maya's loyalty once lived. Maya's anger hardened then, shifting from pain into resolve. She could no longer see herself as a victim waiting for change. Her nights turned into long stretches of reflection. She imagined her future, torn between clinging to a fractured marriage or carving a new path. Each choice carried pain, but only one offered dignity. She began to see resilience not as endurance but as the courage to walk through fire without letting it consume her. Her love for Ayan anchored her, reminding her that her decisions would shape not just her own life but his. The more she looked at Arman, the more she recognized the distance between them was permanent. Trust once broken could not be rebuilt on hollow apologies. He watched her carefully, sensing the change in her silence, aware that her heart no longer bent toward him. She was still under the same roof, but no longer his. The confrontation had stripped away illusions. What remained was raw truth, ugly, undeniable, and irreversible. Maya did not yet speak of leaving, but the thought pressed against her, growing stronger with every heartbeat. She realized her survival demanded it, and though the choice terrified her, the seed of resilience had already taken root. She was no longer simply broken, she was preparing to rise. That night, she lay awake again, no longer staring at the ceiling in despair but in calculation. Her marriage had ended in spirit, and the only question left was when she would give it its final breath. Ayan's soft breathing nearby reminded her of what was truly at stake. She would not fail her son, and she would not fail herself. The decision loomed, and with it, a new beginning she had never imagined she would need. This script is 770 words, keeping it sharp, emotional, and faceless. Do you want me to continue with section 3, 760 words, focusing fully on Maya's resilience, separation, and rebuilding?